Peace and love, everybody. This is Brother Abdullah with FYE TV. I know it's been a minute. I'm trying to get things together. I'm trying some new lighting things. I'm even at a different location at my brother's house. We're going to see what we can do with that. But ashe to the ancestors. And I'd like to start off by saying I appreciate you tuning in and checking out the information we're giving on FYE TV, first year experience. What we're going to do today is going to dive right into something that's very, very important, which is acquiring a space for living. Because as a young person, we understand that we can't live at home forever. I mean, I don't know if you want to be that guy, that gal at your parents' house, putting your name on orange juice, talking about don't touch my stuff, mom and dad. I don't know if you want to be that person. I'd assume you're not because you're here, you're trying to learn new information. So with that being said, I'd like to go into our next topic. Our topic for today will be grabbing your own spot. All right. Grabbing your own spot. That's very, very important. Let's dive right in. Go ahead and set this up for you. Get this presentation. All right. These are the steps to renting an apartment. These things are very, very important because you're going to be living on your own. Now, some people may decide to go dormitory. Some people may decide to do rooming with a family member or stay at home, and that's okay too. But in the event that you make the conscious decision to rent an apartment, I want to go through the basic steps for making that thing happen, okay? All right, step one, look at apartments that fit your budget. You know, we love to look online and see these spacious places and people living these wonderful lives, and Instagram and all the social media makes it all look beautiful. But truth be told, it's not as simple as that if you do not have the financing. So what can you afford? Here's a simple way to find out. Write down the amount you get in your paycheck per month. Maybe it's per week. I'm not sure. This is your net income, what you bring home after taxes. Deduct your current bills from the above amount: credit cards, car payments, student loans, gym membership, parties, hanging out, whatever it is your hobbies are, deduct that. Add in unexpected expenses, such as if you got a car, new tires. Always put a little bit aside of maybe if you do it weekly, bi-weekly, $25 to $30 aside for emergency funds. You may have to buy some medicine. You may need a new something for your car. You may need some supplies for school, or may need something for work. Who knows? But you gotta take that into consideration. So if your current bills total $800, add another $160. That's just an example that they give. Estimate what you expect to spend on utilities. And this is what I need you to be very, very clear of. Cell phone, groceries, all those things are considered utilities. They're essential for you to live, okay? So as a general rule of thumb, you got to, it says that renters should refer to about $200 in utilities. I mean, that sounds about right. I mean, depending on where you live in, do you have roommates? And we're going to get into that later. But always consider that groceries are typically about $250 a month per one person. You may have a very modest diet. And you may even want to consider more than that if you eat out a lot. If you're picking up food on the go, factor in your Dunkin' Donuts, your Starbucks, all of that stuff is very, very important. All right. Estimate what you'll have for extras like dinner out with your friends, not at the club, movies, and all the things you do that you pay to do on a regular basis. You know, hanging out, all those things cost money. It's not free. Also consider the gas money it takes to get in and out. So that's very, very important. The leftover amount is the amount you should budget for your rent. If you don't think it'll be enough, go back and look at the areas where you can cut and be realistic. Can you honestly give up some of the things that you say you're going to cut? That's very, very important because oftentimes we say, I don't need that. And then we dip back into it later, thereby making it much more difficult for us at the end of the month. All right. All right. So, second step, know your credit score. Now, oftentimes we talk about credit score in a vacuum, you know, but we need to know that your credit score in today's economy is very, very important. The highest you get is an 850, the lows go over to 300. So, and a lot of things can affect your credit score. Um, it's amazing. Gym memberships, magazine subscriptions, your utilities, all those things, a car note. You fall behind, your credit score drops. And if this has happened prior to you getting an apartment, what ends up happening is that you have a lesser chance of getting something that you really, really like. It may be in your price range, but if a person says, well, this person has poor credit, I'm not going to rent to them, they're a risk. All right. So do you know your credit score? If you don't, you can find out. You can go get every year, you can go to your annual free annualcreditreport.com. You're entitled to one free credit report from all the agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Equifax, TransUnion, and TRW. There you go. Those are the ones. Now your FICO score is an average of all the scores put together, but some renters just pull maybe Equifax. They just pull TransUnion. You got to be very, very mindful of that. So you want to keep your score as high as possible by not getting a lot of credit cards, and do have one and make sure you pay it on time or pay it off after about 2 to 3 months. All right. Now that's very, very important. If you don't have good credit, you may have to consider a cosigner. Well, what is a cosigner? A cosigner is someone who signs your lease along with you, guaranteeing that if you don't pay, they'll pay. So it's a really big deal. It's a really big responsibility to have someone co-sign for that individual. Now, the upside is that if you do pay on time and this particular renter reports to your credit agency, both of your credit scores go up. So there's some upsides and downsides to a co-signer. This can also can be applied to if you decide to buy a car. So, we talk about that if that's something you're interested in learning about. A family member, close friend may be a co-signer. Hopefully you won't need one, and not at this young age, but you may, because you may not have credit at all. So that's something to seriously consider. All right. All right. Step 3, do you want a roommate? A lot of people say, hey, I want a roommate to cut costs. Another person says, I don't want a roommate because I like my privacy. That's all considerable. You got to take that all into consideration. But these are things you need to think about if you decide to rent an apartment and you decide maybe you may want a roommate. Are you a smoker? Are you people you considering smokers? Do you have pets? Do you want a pet? Do you have any allergies? What's your daily schedule? Are you a morning person or a night person? Do you consider yourself neat or messy? How important is it that you pay your bills on time? Remember, you're paying bills with someone else now. Have you ever been late on the rent? Do you enjoy cooking at home or dining out? What do you like to do on the weekends? What's your policy on overnight guests? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Like to get in and get out? What are your pet peeves, things that really get under your skin and piss you off? We consider the most important traits in a roommate. Do you mind sharing things, or do you prefer to keep everything separate? And that can drastically affect the type of apartment you get. Once you decide on a roommate, you might want to draft a roommate agreement. It's like a contract to say, hey, this is what we will and will not do as roommates to respect one another's privacy and space. So these are all things to think about during step 3, which is to roommate or not roommate. And that is a very, very important question. All right. Next thing, step 4, know what you want, what you need, and what's the difference. Where should you look? Location is crucial. While you might be tempted to choose that cozy apartment in suburbs for a lower rent, you might end up paying much more in time and fuel. You may want to live closer to your parents, closer to your school, closer to your job. And you may say, well, it costs a little more, but I spend less time on the road. I spend less time traveling. You may want to live in an area that has everything you need and amenities such as grocery store, cleaners, movies, restaurants. You may want to live in those areas. Those areas may tend to be a little bit more expensive, but they save you time and gas and money. You may be able to walk to those areas. What if you want a pet? That's something to consider. If you don't have a pet, but thinking about getting one and you have a roommate, you got to talk that over. Do you want a pet? Because some apartments require pet deposits, which are very, very important. And if your pet decides it wants to do a little business all over the apartment, you may have to give up that money that you set aside for a pet deposit. How do you do laundry? Some places have all the amenities in the building or maybe even in your apartment. But if you don't, do you mind going to the laundromat? That may be the difference of maybe $100 to $200 a month in your rent. But you'll pay that maybe by going to the laundromat. You got to take those things into consideration. Is Wi-Fi a package with the place that you're attempting to rent? Some places offer as a part of the rent package, but some places you have to, sign up for it yourself. Get your Verizon Files or Optimum, Comcast, whatever the case may be. Also, very, very important. How do you pay rent? Some people pay rent. They give their landlords half every 2 weeks. Some people pay every week. Some pay once a month. Some people, if they ball out of control, they decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pay for every 6 months, every semester. When I was in college, I used to pay every semester with my little refund check. I'd pay my rent off for the semester, pay it in advance, get it out the way. Also, something to consider, which I used to do as well. I learned from a guy by the name of Jonathan Strobel, member of Kappa Alpha Psi. He told me, he said, pay your utilities, pay them up front. Call the utilities place, say, hey, what's the estimate for this unit for this bill? They'll tell you, you send them the money off, and they'll give you a credit every month. And when the credit starts to get low, you'll see it, and it's time to re-up. All right. So you got to take those things considerations. Now, if you can't pay any of those bills up front and you have a roommate, you can't pay them on time, you have a roommate, you got to communicate. Maybe you want to set up a budget with your roommate to put money aside, something to consider, because if you are not paying your rent on time, pay utilities on time, they can get cut off. If you're not paying your rent on time, you could at worst be evicted, at the least not have your lease renewed because they don't trust you to take care of your business. All right. So step 5, once you figured all of this out, head to the leasing office. That's the place where you go over your contract, go over the lease, whether it be a 6-month, 1 year, 2 year, and determine how long you're going to stay. That could be a year, like I said, 6 months, 1 year to 2 years. They have long leases. Once you find a place with your budget, amenities such as maybe washing machine and dryer, maybe you have a beautiful view, all these things. Once you figure that out, you have to go there with something like a pay stub, reference letter, and your checkbook, or cash, so that you can pay them up front for the first month's, last month's rent minimum. That's what a security deposit is. Now, a typical security deposit could be up to 2 months rent. So let's say if your rent's $1,000, you may have to give them $2,000 plus the first month's rent, which is another $1,000, and then sometimes last month's rent. So it's another $1,000. So you could feasibly have to come out of $4,000 just to move into an apartment. So you got to have clear lines of communication with the place so you can know what it is that you're going to do. All right. Also, be clear. Everything's up for negotiation. Nothing's set in stone. You could possibly negotiate your lease pricing, the type of lease, whether it be a 1 year or 6 month. They may say, we do 1 year lease. And you say, well, I'm not really sure. Can we do a 6-month lease? Is that possible? They may say yes, but it'll cost you an extra $100 per month. If that's worth it, you may decide to go on and take that deal. But you got to be able to understand that all things are negotiable, especially when you're spending large sums of money. Now, if you plan on staying there for a long time, let's say, hey, this is the best spot for you. You're going to be here for at least 4 years. Tell your person, tell the renter or the leasing office. You need to look it up into the lease and say, is it possible? And you can also negotiate cheaper prices if you stay longer. Hey, I want to sign a 3-month lease. Can I get $100 off my rent per month because you're going to get 3 years worth of leasing rent out of me? Have that conversation. All right. Read the lease. There are a lot of clauses that say, hey, if you're late, you got to pay 10% every month that you're late. If you're late, you automatically waive your security deposit. You got to be mindful of the things that are put in the lease. Read it over. Be careful, because people can lock into things that you did not know, and you not reading is not their responsibility, and it does not save you in the courts. Be very aware of what it is you're signing. Once you sign the dotted line, you get your keys to your new place. And since you know exactly what the terms of your lease agreement are, you created a budget that works, you'll live happily ever after. That's what it said, but at least as long as you're in there. So understand, this is very, very important. I want you to walk in, get this information, understand that this is a vital step to true adulthood, is a true adulting. All right. And you need to have fun with it and enjoy yourself. Also something to consider that I did not put out there, please forgive me, is whether or not the apartment is furnished. And speaking of furniture, rent to own furniture is the biggest scam. You end up paying 5 times what it's worth. Do not do rent to own furniture. If I were you, just if you want to furnish your apartment, do 1 room at a time. Furnish the rooms that you most frequent, maybe your dining room and your bedroom. Don't worry about that, but do not lease furniture. Rent-a-center, errands, all of that is a robbery. So that's something to consider when you're getting a new apartment. All right, well, I tell you what, people, we're going to end it there. And with that being said, I'd like to say peace and love to you. I hope all is well. Please forgive the fact that this is the first video in maybe a couple of weeks, but a lot been spring breaking. a lot of things going on. I appreciate you, and I love the fact that you're here. Once again, this is FYE TV, and we want you to be well. Peace and love.